I think we often will get an update, a new idea, a new strategy. We didn't get that this time around, which I think it's also a signal for the firm as the firm is trying to adjust to operate into new business environment, largely influenced by Gen AI. They have new leadership in place, both at the global level as well as the US. So I think not making a new announcement of a new strategy was new, but also good for them, I think.
Welcome to TBR Talks, decoding strategies and ecosystems of the globe's top tech firms, where we talk business model disruption in the broad technology ecosystem, from management consultancies to systems integrators, hyperscalers to independent software vendors, telecom operators to network and infrastructure vendors, and chip manufacturers to value-added resellers. We'll be answering some of the key intelligence questions we've heard from executives and business unit leaders among the leading professional IT services and telecom vendors. I'm Patrick Heffernan, Principal Analyst, and today we'll be talking about PwC's Boston Analyst Summit with Boz Hristov, Principal Analyst for TBR's Digital Transformation Practice, and Kelly Lesiczka, Senior Analyst for TBR's Professional Services Practice. Okay, thank you, Kelly and Boz. We are recording this session, honestly, the day after we got back from a 2-day PwC event in Boston, which was great because it was in Boston, so it was nice and close by. And I feel like those 2 days were a full week's worth. It seems like it was a very long event. Started in the morning on Tuesday and went all the way through yesterday afternoon. So PwC is a firm we spent a ton of time with. We've been to PwC events. As recently, Kelly, you were in London a couple of weeks ago with PwC. Yeah. We've been to India with them. We've been basically all over the world with PwC. And this particular event was their annual Analyst Summit. Last year, we all talked about how much tax was a surprise for us. So I'm curious, knowing that we know PwC really well, what was something that over the last couple of days was new for you when you went in and you didn't know that about PwC, or it was a new spin on something that you had previously known about PwC? Boz, I'll start with you.
Sure. What's new? I think, as you said, we've been tracking PwC for years now, attended many of the events in the past. I think we often will get an update, a new idea, a new strategy. We didn't get that this time around, which I think it's also a signal for the firm as the firm is trying to adjust to operate into new business environment, largely influenced by Gen AI. They have new leadership in place, both at the global level as well as the US. So I think not making a new announcement of a new strategy was new, but also good for them, I think, as a way for focusing on strategy, which, that they announced about a year ago with the business model reinvention. So staying the course of that and focusing on execution, I think it's good. And rather than just constantly making new announcements every so often. So I think it's new to the point that it's focused more on the execution and staying the course and making some adjustments, obviously, against the new executives that they hired from within the industry, on both on the IT side, on the technology commercial side, as well as the communications and marketing side. So those are just adjacent to actually the strategy they have previously announced. And I guess not making new announcements of new strategy was a new thing.
Yeah, you have to know a company well enough to know when they don't do something that's actually kind of new.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. Kelly, what about you?
I would say, I know PwC has always had risk services in the risk portfolio, but I think kind of the evolution around the risk services, the solutions, it was more emphasized during the event. I know with the adoption of technology, even before with cloud and digital, I think it's always been a thing, but I think with how much more complex things are, how many more risks have been opened up, whether in geopolitical reasons or just the risk of your business model needing to be adjusted. I think it was hearing them talk so much about that and how it's shifted more from just where are the risks within your business, mostly around operations, but now it's what are your risks inside, outside, and all around.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in the past, when PwC folks have talked about other presentations or other things that happened during the event, sometimes risk would get mentioned. Mm-hmm. This time, pretty much every PwC person made reference to the risk session. I was really struck by in the private equity session, there was just not a throwaway comment, but a comment that one of the PwC partner made about how the company that they were working with that was owned by a private equity firm would be typically too small to be a company that PwC would serve. And so what I thought might be new there, and we'll have to look for this next year and going forward, is working with private equity a way for PwC to build up that muscle memory of how to work with small and medium-sized companies. And so would it be a sort of a Trojan horse or like a way to get into the SMB market by again, building up the capabilities, the skills, understanding how it's different working with a medium-sized enterprise than with the typical large enterprises that PwC works with? Because they confirmed to us the client shapes of their client portfolio hasn't changed that much, except to maybe be a little bit more heavily weighted towards the largest enterprises. So here was this new opening into, potentially a new market for them, not directly, but going through the private equity companies. So, and I just used the word surprising, and I wanted to use surprising for the next piece of this, but maybe unexpected. Was there something that Kelly, that you didn't think you were going to hear about that you did? So this surprised you about PwC this week?
I don't think there's anything that I'd heard that I didn't expect to. I think, like I said, the risk, I think, was definitely something good, but not something new. I think I think Boz kind of touched on it a minute ago with the strategy side. There wasn't any strategy update, and I could be miscounting, but I think I only heard the mention Fit for Growth once, which was kind of surprising to me because it is something that they're so grounded in, and it's underpinning everything that they're doing or attempting to do in terms of value creation tied to these technologies. So it was kind of strange to me not to hear it, but maybe they're trying to go down a new avenue. Like you were saying, with the smaller enterprises and entities, maybe it's a way that they're trying to find value in other spots. So it's overshadowed a little.
And I think Fit for Growth is something they put on sort of every single slide in the past. And this year there weren't slide heavy presentations. And so maybe that's why they didn't hit some of those key themes that we've heard in the past.
Right.
Boz, for you, surprising, unexpected?
Yeah, I guess I'll take two sides of the surprise, just thinking through that lens, can be both. You can look at the positive and negative, but I think it was a positive feedback that we got from the managed services performance. Some of the use cases that we heard, I think it was a very, very well connected story that really went really deep into PwC's opportunity to deliver on managed services. We know that this has been an area that they've been investing for some time now, and probably not surprising that we heard the story, but the depth that they went into the managed services and the capabilities that they're able to demonstrate with the client, and clients just bringing up more work, and just the collaboration just kept building up one after the other and creating actual opportunities for potentially for even consulting work, and almost like as a backdoor opener for what PwC can do more with our clients. So I think the depth and the breadth of that particular use case and the client that we heard from was a positive reinforcement, and actually something to, now that they are on the hook to keep doing more of that with other clients as well, with more clients.
Right.
So that's definitely an opportunity there. Another opportunity that I saw, and which I don't want to say surprise, but maybe I'll put it through more of an opportunity for them to do more of, is having their alliance partners being present at the event, or at a kind of a forum that has the client side, has the PwC executive, and almost felt like that's the three-legged stool. That third leg was being discussed throughout the presentations as part of being brought up in the conversations, that the reliance on partners is important. It's there, but I think it would be very beneficial if there were actual technology alliance partners present, so we can hear what they think of PwC, how do they sell PwC essentially. And I recognize that this is not an easy task from logistical perspective, from branding perspective. You always try to be careful about which partners do you have on site and which one may not be there. And there's some, other events with other vendors that we have seen that have worked with, others may have not worked as much. So it's a fine balance. But I think it's an opportunity for the firm to have more presence of the alliance partners in future events moving forward. So I think that's something that surprised me that they were not present at the time, given I think they reported 24-25% growth came through their partners in the last year. So that was the importance of partners was recognized, but not at the event. So
the importance of the ecosystem they brought up, but they didn't have the actual
physical presence.
Yeah, and so I was surprised also, and I was surprised by it until I went back and looked at both my notes and I actually pulled up the app today to confirm it. I was surprised there wasn't a bigger global presence because in my mind going in, this was a global analyst event, which was kind of dumb because you just went to the event in London. I went to one earlier this year in India. So I know I should have known it wasn't global, but I was surprised that although Mohammed was there, Joe Atkinson was there, Scott Likens were there, there were people in global roles, but there weren't any, there wasn't a UK partner, there wasn't an India partner, there wasn't somebody that would be able to represent the sort of one global PwC view of the world, other than the people that were specifically in those kind of global roles. But something to look forward to for next year. Yeah. Speaking of which, where do you see this firm in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Pick the time frame you want to go down and give me a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year look at PwC. Boz, you get to go first.
Well, 1, 3, 5 years.
Yeah, 1 or 3 or 5, or all of them.
All of them. So I think 1 is not enough to see a major change. I would say, just given, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, a new leadership in place, a strategy that they're focused on execution right now. So I would expect them to continue to fine tune, to refine the staffing, the leadership, the portfolio around the strategy, around business model reinvention that I brought up in the beginning. I think will continue for the next year. And just by the nature of how the markets are evolving, I think obviously, and they brought it up during the conversations and the presentations the last 2 days, 6 days from now, I think that's going to be part of the equation for the next year, and how they as a firm adjust to whatever the political environment may occur here in the United States, and from policies, from tax updates, from just navigating the business environment being influenced by how the elections come out in less than a week. So I think that's going to be part of it, those fine-tuning pieces that I'm talking about. Now, 3 years down the road, I think we'll expect to see a firm that is heading into a different pyramid model. I would suspect them to be a little bit more leaner pyramid. I would suspect to be a little bit more fine-tuned their commercial and pricing model to account for the implications from Gen AI and how they go to market to the clients and how they work with their partners and whatnot. So I think that's going to be the next 3-year test bet, and what they're going to stay focused on, really trying to chart their way into what does PwC look like, not in 3 years, but in 30 years, essentially. Yeah. Because as you're making those adjustments, you're not going to make those adjustments just for a year or two. You're going to make something, especially Gen AI is here to stay, obviously. I think the 5-year horizon is really hinging on the success of the 3-year roadmap. It's nothing, unusual what I'm saying is, but I'm thinking about the big component of the 3-year plan for the 5-year execution is the internal selling. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for them, to ensure that partners continue to buy into the vision of the new leadership, buy into those restructuring those pricing and commercial models. So I think recognizing those pieces, making those internal cultural adjustments, management adjustment, pyramid adjustments, portfolio adjustments. And I understand that they cannot just happen overnight, right, nor would they happen at scale right away. But to your point about the globalization of the firm, trying to be a little bit more, bringing everybody together whenever possible, I think it's this is the building blocks. So will in 5 years see a firm that is closer to globally managed? I think that's going to be a huge success for them in terms of like globally run, I should say. I mean, they have a global chairman, but as close as possible to a global P&L. And I understand that's kind of like, impossible being a member firm structure, but I think that's at least from a effort, that they make, and clients and their alliance partners also recognize that's how they see the firm. I think that's going to be a huge success for them.
Legally impossible, operationally inevitable.
Yes,
that's the way I would see that global firm shaking out.
Yeah,
Kelly.
I guess I can go with the 1 year.
Sure.
If I want to put a time frame on it. I think one of the things we heard about quite a bit over the event was the theme of trust and how they're using trust with their existing clients and trying to accelerate some of that adoption around AI, cloud, and migration. I think it's funny you mentioned Joe and Scott. I was in a tech breakout with them at the end of the event. And one of the things they were talking about was the mindset around AI. And I think a lot of what they're doing is trying to help shift that mindset so they can really equip people with those tools. So a lot of the resistance around AI tool adoption, not even wide scale, but just using it, using ChatGPT, just using those little tools, a lot of people they're more afraid of them because they don't want themselves replaced. They have to, I think Joe is really emphasizing how you have to really change people's mindset and provide training, provide understanding so they know how to use those tools for augmentation, not for replacing. And I think that's something we'll probably hear a lot more from them, is just how they can use those tools, how they can use their own people advisory, I guess you could call it, in order to work with employees to help them communicate capabilities around that and really train them around how to overcome that fear, how to use those. Because I think we've kind of seen people advisory falling off for a bit, but I think with all of these new tools, change management really is quite an important thing. And we heard a little bit about it, but I do think it's something that's going to come back, especially with all the complexity around these things. And just you actually have to change how you're working. We're talking about clients changing their own business models, but you have to change how you're working yourself too.
I think you're 100% right. I hadn't thought of it until you said it, but I think next year, one thing we're going to hear repeatedly from PwC is how much their own internal practices have changed because of all the AI that they're adopting, and how much people like Joe and Scott are able to influence the firm and make that change management happen. I've been going back and reading a bunch of old notes and old emails about PwC and the way we've looked at them over the years. And they have consistently been, surprisingly in some ways, at the leading edge of things, but not always following all the way through and being the ones that sort of execute on that leading edge. But that hasn't hurt them. They've still continued to grow. They could still continue to be very successful. So what I'm looking for in 5 years from now is that new management team, the new global leadership is a new kind of global operational model combined with the way that they adopt AI internally, is that can actually allow them to finally accelerate and be able to do the things that they've been doing well, but in too many different silos and not having that sort of full-on follow through. So really good stuff. Of course, we have to end with the always the question that we ask after every single event: what was the best thing that you had to eat? Got to know about the food. So we had a few meals there. So what was either the best meal, and you can describe that as the food or the people that you sat with, or the actual best physical thing that you ate during the PwC event? Boz, you have to go first.
Lobster roll?
The lobster roll was good. Four Seasons lobster roll for lunch. That was good. Yeah. I will agree. That was really good. Yeah. Kelly?
I think the desserts were really good. They had whoopie pies. They had pumpkin pie. It was a little dish. Wasn't huge on that, but or no, it wasn't whoopie pie. Yeah, they did have, and they had ice cream. They had Haagen-Dazs. They had the dessert really.
Desserts. Good. As someone who has professed to eating cake for breakfast, I guess it's not surprising. No. I'm going to say the dumplings. Right?
Oh, I knew it. I knew it going there. That's why I left it for you. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
I appreciate that, Boz. The late night dumplings were an absolute.
I knew exactly where you're going.
Food highlight of the week. Excellent, Kelly, Boz. Thank you very much, and we will be with PwC again, I'm sure, pretty soon, and we'll come back here and talk about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tune in next week for another episode of TBR Talks. Don't forget to send us your key intelligence questions on business strategy, ecosystems, and management consulting through the form in the show notes below. Visit tbri.com to learn how we help tech companies large and small answer these questions with the research, data, and analysis my guests bring to this conversation every week. Once again, I'm your host, Patrick Heffernan, Principal Analyst at TBR. Thanks for joining us, and see you next week.